Many faces that have come before and many new faces. That's what makes it exciting. We'd like to thank our planning committee that helped us make this all possible, and of course all of you that have helped us as well. This is our 5th annual, and the theme this year is Do-It-Yourself Health. I think all of you recognize why we all have to take a larger role in our own health, because there's no money, right? And nobody can help us better than ourselves. We're very excited that this year we have some exciting new topics to discuss. We have been warned that the sheriffs are enforcing parking. So if you're illegally parked, please move your vehicle. They will ticket, I've been told. I don't know, and I have never wanted to pay the fine to find out. If you parked at Queens, you should be in POB 1, POB 2, or Miller Street. If you're parked anywhere else, we cannot validate. If you're an exhibitor or a volunteer, please see my husband Glenn, who's wearing a gray shirt with the COPD Coalition. He's in the back waving his hands at the back of the auditorium, and he will help you. Okay. And there is restrooms right by the elevator down the stairs as you came in the front doors. My sister Wendy is going around with the yellow bag. Any orange entry forms anyone has, pass it to the aisles, please. We are very fortunate once again to have as our moderator the golden voice of radio, our very own Beth Ann Kozlovich. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, you want to give it to me afterwards? Okay, okay. Well, now that I've been properly greeted, thank you very much, Val. I'm Beth Ann Kozlovich from Hawaii Public Radio. I'm the executive producer of all of our talk shows, co-host of The Conversation, and host of Town Square. Now? Better? Okay. This thing is not as sensitive as our mics. What? Okay, I'm being told there's audio amplification at the front desk in case you need it. It might be something that would make this time a little more enjoyable, but certainly up to you. Just give ID and they'll be happy to help you up there. Anyway, one of the reasons that Val asked me year after year is not just because I do radio and this is sort of a neat gig to do, but Val has known my family for a while and knows that my father died of lung cancer 5 years ago, right here. And with all of that, and before that, he had emphysema. And there wasn't a whole lot of help. There weren't a whole lot of events like this. And he was only 70 when he passed away. And I never thought I would be this age and not have my dad. And seeing has transpired only in the last couple of years, 5 to 7 years since he really got sick and passed. It's truly heartfelt for me to be able to be part of that. And I'm very glad that all of you are here. I'm very happy to do this every year. So let's get on with it because we've got some really fabulous speakers, including a friend and advocate of all things lung. That would be you, Dr. Tam. Dr. Elizabeth Tam does a lot of cutting-edge research about VOG, about volcanic fog, and lots of other topics, including asthma. And she's certified in pulmonology. She's a professor and chair of the Department of Medicine at the John A. Burns School of Medicine, and she's going to talk to us today a lot about what she's been doing vis-a-vis COPD. Please help me welcome Dr. Elizabeth Tam.
I was so happy to get involved in this talk. I love any kind of conference that says, do it yourself. I really think that's where we're going, and we ought to be taking care of ourselves. So I am professor and chair of the Department of Medicine, and we've been really busy. We have 60 new students coming in. We graduate 22 new residents in internal medicine. Chances are, if you have your physicians here in Hawaii, we supply 60% of them either come through the School of Medicine or the residency programs in medicine. And what I'm going to do here today is go over some of the new things, and rather than go over guideline by guideline, I'm going to work it in because I have just spent the summer breaking in new students and interns, and I think I'll let you in on a few secrets. And maybe then we can all work together with physicians and patients, and let's get on the same song sheet and really make a difference in the management of COPD. So I promise to give you some updates in a new fashion. What's new is the new guidelines. They've been updated. These are called the GO, the Global Initiatives in Obstructive Lung Disease. Let's see, we last saw you here last fall in 2010. November 2010, another conference convened, and they released their updates. They reviewed about hundreds of papers and experiments, and then they released the new guidelines in paper form in April 2011. So I'm going to touch on a few points of those. Now, a lot of it remains the same. COPD remains mainly a combination of diseases, disorders like emphysema, chronic bronchitis, and chronic asthma. But we're all defining them. They share a common definition in that there is airflow limitation that does not completely reverse. And I saw a lot of you up there getting your spirometry done. I'm going to come back to that. But we're trying to get down to the numbers that your FEV1 over FVC ratio is 70% or less than 70%. So you guys should be looking at your sheets that you got. I hope you gave everybody their own numbers, right? Okay, everyone has their numbers. Get ready. We're going to go over that a little bit. So this is what came out earlier this year, 2011. Although the conference was in 2010, it actually got released publicly just earlier this year. And this is what it covers: the definition, the burden, the risk factors, what happens, management, and practical considerations. I'm not going to cover all that in 25 minutes, okay? But just to update you on some. I mentioned that those three conditions lead to these airflow limitation states, okay, so that the FEV1 over FVC is less than 70%. You can see that whatever the severity, mild, moderate, severe, very severe, they all have this less than 70 ratio, okay? And all this is saying is that you're able to breathe out in the first second only 70% of all the air you can breathe out in a full breath, okay? Usually, young people should be able to breathe out, 80%. So if you can't breathe it all out, that's an indication of airflow limitation. All right? If you were in here earlier watching the information, kind of an infomercial on COPD, you don't have to stay for this talk. Actually, they covered it all. COPD is the only one of the main chronic conditions that is increasing the world over. And you can see that between 1998 and 1965, it has gone up 2.5, almost 3 times, okay? Coronary heart disease, stroke, other cardiovascular disease, and other causes, they were high already in 1965, and we've been making inroads. They're beginning to come down, but COPD got away from us until now. Take care of that. The main point that the guidelines continue to say is that we can prevent it, we can treat it. There is hope. We can stop that trajectory of that curve, and we hope we can bring it down. Okay? Now I'm going to hit on some of these things and some of the changes and updates, but I think I'll do it like from your view, as if you're getting ready to go to the doctor. And since I know what we're trying to teach our future physicians, let's see if we can put it in this way. So as you're getting ready to go to see your doctor about your COPD, anticipate that your physician's going to want to know what your chief complaint is, the history, other medical history, your family history, medications, the review of systems from your head to toe, okay? A bit about the physical exam I'll share with you, and then we're going to focus a bit more on some of the testing, things that you're going to get numbers from, okay? So on your handout, I think you have this sheet. Keep in mind as we go through this, if we can start quantitating, put things in numbers, we can do things and help our own research, like how to compare ourselves from moment to moment, from year to year. You know, you can't go saying, I feel a little worse than last year. It's better to go, my score this year is this, or my FEV1 is this. Last year it was about the same. So try to change to numbers. We are trying to teach our physicians this as well. For one thing, then we don't have to read their writing. You know, just walk in there. You know, you don't have that much breath anyway, so why not just say, I'm 25 today, okay? Instead of going through all this, I got up 4 times, short of breath. You know, I think we can save ourselves a whole lot of breath by trying to use the numbers wisely, okay? So these are going to come up as we go through your visit to the doctor. Now, I don't know if you walk in saying, my chief complaint is, okay? But we are asked to put that on your record. What is your chief complaint? Now, people with COPD, you know, it can be that cough or bringing up sputum, sometimes a wheeze, but there's usually breathlessness. And, you know, doctors sometimes say this impossible word with too many consonants in one row, dyspnea, shortness of breath. So, you know, sometimes you'll go through, well, they still do this. They go through this whole thing, you know, how many times you wake up per night and all that. But we have now several instruments that we've been developing after many years of research. And I think maybe we can start adopting this, especially among people who deal a lot with lung disease. All right? One is something that came out of Canada, the Modified Medical Research Council, or MMRC scale, and another one that's commonly used is the Borg dyspnea scale. Okay, these were started as research tools, but they're handy because they help you do a bit of quantitation. Now, this is the Medical Research Council one. It's on your handout, and you can see that the higher the number, the higher the grade, the worse your symptoms are. Okay, now I want to just see how this audience is. How many of you feel like a 1 today? I'm a 1. Okay, 2. Okay, 3. 4. Okay, that's about right. And I know you're not a 5 because you're here. Okay? All right. The thing with this, it kind of gives a chronic level. And if you were to start a medication, it might not drop you much between 3 to 2, for instance. So it may not help distinguish or discern much in, say, making an intervention. Now, this one does. This is called the Borg scale. And you can see, you could maybe go in and just say, I'm about a 3 in terms of breathlessness. Now, I noticed when I'm at the clinic, all of my patients have a pain scale. And most of them are not in pain, not to see me anyway, I'm the lung doctor. So they're not in pain, but there's always this pain scale. I think in a lung clinic, or if you're going to, you know, you have a history of COPD, we might want to move to the Borg scale. And most of the time, people are running a 1 to 2, because they just came into the office, you know, tried to catch the elevator. But if one month you find that you've changed and you're moving up to a 7, we know something needs to be done. And this kind of scale has been used in the emergency room. So someone comes in, they're feeling like a 7. The physicians make an intervention, like give you nebulizers, and they start the the steroid drip, and then they can see the flows get better and the score gets better. It comes down to a 2. Now, as you remember, one of the diseases that leads to COPD is asthma. Okay, chronic asthma can do that. And there is a very good instrument called the asthma control test that's come up over the last 5-10 years. This test has been validated around the world, So this same test is used in clinics and offices around the world, and there's also a form of it for children that has smiley faces, okay, that they can do that. But it's all been quite well validated to show that it links up with your FEV1 and some other numbers. So I want you all, it's just 5 questions, okay? And I want you all to take the test with me, and I'm going to see what kind of total score you come up with. Okay, number 1, in the past 4 weeks, how much of the time did your asthma keep you from getting as much done at work, school, or at home? Okay, not all of you have asthma, but pretend you do. Pretend that your shortness of breath is due to asthma, okay? Just to feel for how this works. All right, so 1 through 5, keep your number. Number 2, in the past 4 weeks, how often have you had shortness of breath? More than once a day, 3 to 6 times a week, a couple times a week, not at all. Okay, take your score. 3, how often did your asthma symptoms, and these are the symptoms, wake you up at night or earlier than usual in the morning? Okay, 4 more nights a week, so a score of 1, 2 to 3 nights a week, once a week, and get this, even once or twice a month really counts for something. It drops your score down from a 5 to a 4. Night symptoms are very important. Teach my students and residents that I'm Chinese, have long said asthma is a disease of the night. It comes at night. And they've said this for millennia. And it turns out now that we can do cell biology and molecular biology, we now understand why it comes at the night. At night, these wee hours of the morning is when your innate steroids kind of go down. You just have there's a chronobiology of your hormones. And the other thing is you have white cells, inflammatory cells, but there are receptors on them that keep them anti-inflammatory, that are soothing. But those get taken into the cell at night and get reworked. So it's as if these inflammatory cells are kind of unleashed. A lot of things happen in the night. Sounds like vampires. But nighttime symptoms mean something. Okay, number 4. How often have you used your rescue inhaler in the past 4 weeks? Okay, now this is if you needed it as a rescue, okay, that your symptoms got worse and therefore you needed it. Some of you are taking it like first thing in the morning, you know, whether you need it or not, but this is how often have you used it as a rescue inhaler, okay? 3 or more times per day, and then 5 would be not at all. Got your score? Number 5, in the past 4 weeks, how would you rate your asthma control? Okay? Or we're going to play here for COPD control. Okay. So add up your score. 5 questions. If you were perfect every time, you'd have a score 25. I just want to know how many of you have a score that's 20 or above? Excellent. That is very good. Okay? This one, a high score means your symptoms are under good control, okay? The medications or whatever you're doing is satisfactory, okay? Now, if it's any lower than that, I would say this is the time to tell your doctor. Your doctor will look at it, I hope, I'm teaching them that, and make sure that figures in the treatment plan you develop together. All right, now we've done the chief complaint, let's do the history. I'm not going to hit on everything in the history, just I want to point out that in the history, it's important to know at what age the symptoms started, because it tells us a little about the epidemiology, all right? And COPD increases with age, and it increases with smoking or any burden of smoking. And we were just talking about how by lifetime prevalence of COPD is about 1 in 4 people. So 40 years old, 50 years, it just increases. So as you age, as we all age, 1 in 4 of us will develop COPD. And the chances increase remarkably if there's ever a history of smoking. Now, I forgot to mention, I did go upstairs. I was looking at the spirometry, and some of you were doing that. You see this sheet that they were doing, and you answered? You see some of the questions are showing up here. I mean, very similar. So the smoking is so important. At least about 3/4 of people who have COPD were exposed to smoke or noxious particles at some point in their life, either their own smoking or the smoking of others, okay? So if you have smoked, I ask my physicians to note at the age you started, age that they quit, how many packs per day at the maximum, okay? And then we have this number, we call it a pack year. So if you smoke 10 packs a day, that's 100 pack years. And that's just as bad as someone who smoked, hard to smoke 100 years, but let's see, 25 years, 4 packs a day, okay? But you can see you go the number of years smoking times the packs per day, and you get pack year. And of course, the higher the pack years, the higher the risk of COPD. Cigarettes per day, if you're still smoking, I want to know cigarettes per day, the brand. And I can go into a whole thing about why the brand makes a difference. But it tells a lot about how we're going to intervene in helping you stop smoking. Time between waking and the first morning, very important. If you're still smoking, I hope your doctor asks you and you keep track of how long between the time you wake up and the time you smoke. I mean, I even go, did you shishi first? You know, okay. Because I have people who would wake up at 3 in the morning, have a cigarette in order to get out at 6 in the morning. Because remember, that first morning cigarette breaks a fast. Usually the last cigarette was 8 hours earlier, right, before bedtime. So it's all going to be important. Past or other medical history, I put tuberculosis first here because this is one of the new things in the new guidelines. It's now been shown that a history of tuberculosis is an independent risk factor for COPD, independent of age and independent of smoking even. Okay, and tuberculosis is very important in Hawaii. Hawaii is always number 1 or 2 with New York for the incidence and prevalence of tuberculosis. So keep an eye out for that. Allergies, hay fever, eczema, again, because there's a tie-in with asthma and it can be associated with lung disease. The important thing we point out in COPD, because of the age and the smoking association, there are often other comorbidities. Cancer is one, heart disease, stroke, or depression. And this is one that is now showing in the new guidelines. We now understand that there is an association with COPD and anxiety or depression. With cancer, I share with Beth Ann, my dad also died of smoking. And so I dedicate my life and my career to his life and saving others from it. Okay. Medications. Now, these are not medications, but I have to tell you, these things are the only items that really have been shown to change the decline in lung function or change longevity. They do decrease mortality. Okay, stopping smoking, number one. Okay, vaccines. Okay, now pneumovax, if you're over age 60, you should have had a pneumovax, and then if you're 75, you should have had even another one. All right, and it does decrease the incidence of pneumonia, but it hasn't been shown yet to decrease mortality. Flu vaccines do. That hands down, flu vaccines every year, that decreases your mortality. Okay? Oxygen is the other thing. If you need oxygen, take it. This one will improve and lengthen your life. Okay? Now, the other things are medications. They're great for symptom relief. They increase your activity. They're excellent. The thing with these medications, the inhalers, please bring them with you to the doctor's office. Okay? Because chances are, if I taught them, I'm going to tell your doctor's going to ask you to demonstrate how you use it. And we want to make sure, because it's very important that you take your medications, your inhalers, the right way. As it is, even under the best circumstances, only about 10% of that puff is getting down to where we want it. And if you lose any part of that, you're not getting the efficacy you need, okay? Let me go over some of these later, maybe among you, but I'm going to move on to some of these other things. The physical exam, your doctor's, of course, going to listen to your lungs and all that, but I want you to pay attention to your weight and understand how you derive your body mass index. Optimum is 25 or less. Well, between 20 and 25, your body mass index. Being obese it just makes you breathe more in and of itself. You had that with COPD, that's hard to manage. And then if you start to lose weight, that's also a bad sign that the COPD is progressing, or perhaps that there's another comorbidity that we need to look at. So watch the weight and body mass index. We're going to look at cough, posture, respiratory rate, pursed lip breathing, and how long it takes for you to get your breath out. Most of us, it's a 1-to-1 ratio, in, out. Okay? If your airflow is limited, it can take 5 to 6 times as long to get your air out, okay? And watch swelling of the feet, because if your lungs are not getting enough air, the pulmonary vessels will tighten down, the heart's going to have to beat a little harder, and sometimes the fluid backs up, so we're watching for that. Things you can watch for as well. Some note about testing, this is where the other numbers are going to come in. I'm glad to see, I think all of you, if you haven't done it already, you're going to do it at noon, I hope. Go get your numbers, spirometry. The first thing I want to see is that we calculate how much of your full breath you can get out in that first second. Okay, in the first second, it's the FEV1, and FVC is the full exhaled breath. So generally, if you can't get out 70% of that, that's what we call COPD. Now, we should do this after we take bronchodilator. This number for COPD, you should take bronchodilator first, and then the FEV1, FVC. And if it's still low, that's COPD. If it improves after bronchodilator, then that's asthma. Okay? Asthma, you can go away completely. The other number we look at is just how much you can breathe out in the first second. This is usually what the curve looks like in someone who's got airflow limitation on a little lower. So this is seconds, and this is how much volume came out. All right, and just to show you, this is 1 liter, okay? And then this is 2 liter. So usually in one breath, it's showing you here, well, most of you are probably more like, should be 3 liters or so, but 2 liters, and then they took a bronchodilator and they could breathe out a little more. The other thing I want to point out, see this volume? Say your FEV1 is 2 liters. If you continue to smoke, you might as well take 4 tablespoons out of that every year. Okay? If you smoke, you lose 60 cc's a year or more. And most of us, I'm sorry, age alone, we take about a tablespoon out every year just from aging, okay? But if you continue to smoke or get exposed to smog, you lose a lot more volume more quickly. Just to show you, technology is really advanced. You can now get something that will show FEV1 and the peak flow for about $75. But it doesn't show you the FVC. So at one point, I would take this to your doctor's office, take a blow on this, and then check against the spirometer, and then you can kind of see how they calibrate against each other. The other thing I want to point out is this oximetry. You didn't think this was a respiratory measurement, but it is, all right? I brought this in, and I measured from the door to this first row is 50 feet. So going back, if you went around, it'd be about 100 feet. And this can be easily done. The other thing I looked up is, I got one of these things. Now, I remember when I first bought this, I bought one of these for my office, 15 years ago. It was $400. So it's a finger oximeter, okay? I just went online this morning, and I see one here for 30 bucks. I don't know what the shipping is, but I got this one at Long's for 49 bucks, okay? But you could walk down and time yourself for 6 minutes. How many times could you go around? And that's kind of what we do in our clinic. I measure the clinic. We try to get some runway space and get a very simple device. We take the Borg score at the beginning, the heart rate, the oxygen saturation, then we start letting people walk at the pace they want. We've measured it out. And then go 6 minutes, but we stop if there's any kind of pain, they're very breathless, uncomfortable, or the saturation, the oxygen saturation drops to 88%. Just stop, and we see how far they went, how many minutes, and we write down the Borg score, the heart rate, and oxygen saturation at the end. Okay? 6-minute walk test. Ooh, this is also used the world over, and we use it to test the efficacy of some medications for heart and lung disease. And you can do this in your own home, okay? I find it very useful. I've got some people who, once they were given the diagnosis, they were afraid to do anything. And when we showed that their oxygen was okay, then they started moving. Because exercise is actually a very important remedy in COPD. It is part of the management. So managing stable COPD, this is not new. Avoid triggers. I can give a whole lecture about VOG, but it's the smoke, really. It's the indoor air pollution that we have to watch out for, and the smog, okay? Exercise is very important. That's why if your oxygen levels are fine, and if they're not, then we can get you supplemental oxygen. Exercise is key. Diet, and I hope last year we had a great talk on diet in COPD, but brightly colored fruits, keep up the fruits and vegetables. Breathing exercises, I'm looking forward to hearing about the harmonica playing because it's going to illustrate some of those issues. Vaccination, please get your flu vaccine. This year's version is out already. Take your medications appropriately and know your numbers, all the ones that I showed you there on the sheet. So, just to remind you, 2010, it's been updated. I've been on the right track. There's not too much difference from the prior year, but they're confirming that our assessment and our management is really good. All right, we're almost on time. Thank you. Do we have time for questions or no? Later? Okay, after panel. Okay. You want some?
Thank you so much. Need help with those goodies? Thank you, Dr. Tam, so much. And there we go. See, I went paperless, so we wouldn't have to print off all of the notes. You just heard Dr. Tam talk about the harmonica demonstration. Well, we're about ready to get it. We have Robert Omora here, and he is an asthma patient at Kaiser. He's been the administrator of many programs. He's currently the volunteer harmonica instructor and conductor of the Small World Harmonica Band. And he's going to show us what this can do for those of us with COPD and those of us who just want to have a whole heck of a lot of fun too. It's a good thing. Robert Omora, thank you very much for being here. You're welcome.
I didn't hear my intro because she was talking to me.
Oh, well, that's okay. It was a good one. It's okay. Besides, it's going to be better with you playing the harmonica.
Thank you. I would like to start off by telling you that I have breathing problems too, and that's the reason why I'm here, I guess. I'm an asthmatic, and I've had that problem officially since about 1986, when my Kaiser told me, you have asthma problems. And I'm also an ex-smoker. I smoked for about 35 years. And right now I'm using 3 inhalers a day. Let me show you a couple of instruments. I don't know what you call it. I don't see them on these things, but these were recommended to me. I see the people up on the second floor telling you, blow, 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 blow. This thing with a tube is one, and that's to blow. This here is to draw. You know, you're supposed to draw your air and see how far you can go up on that measurement here. Anyway, these are 2 devices or apparatus that recommended medically. I have a device here, an apparatus that not medical. Okay, here's one. I got several of these, but anyway, I brought what we call a harmonica. And the harmonica really came from, the concept of the harmonica originated in China 5,000 years ago. And if you are familiar with Asian music, Chinese or Japanese or Korean, see them use, and they still use it today. It's an instrument called the shung. And the shung is made out of bamboo reeds. I was watching a TV program about China the other night, and these guys, there were about 10 or 15 of them playing with a shung that was about 5 feet long. Anyway, it's all made of bamboo reeds. Now, bamboo reeds were taken to Europe by the silk traders back in about 1,000, 2,000 years ago. And the Europeans developed what is now known as the harmonica. I mean, they didn't have bamboo in Europe, so they had to use metal to make the reeds. And that's how we got the harmonica. Yeah, and the harmonica is probably the world's most popular instrument. I guess drums and string instruments are also popular, but this is one of the few musical instruments that almost everybody can pick up and play. And you know, you have the small ones. I have one that's only about 2 inches wide, and then this one is about 7 or 8 inches. And you know, the apparatus I showed you earlier, and they were talking about that earlier, about measuring your blowing and your drawing. This instrument you can blow and draw one time. And you know, it provides you a chance to make your life better, and you get your exercise. If you practice every day, you get your exercise for breathing, blowing, and drawing, and you strengthen your lungs. As far as I know, I'm not a medical person, but once your lungs go, that's it. There's no way to repair it. The only other way is for you to strengthen it, and exercising it will strengthen your lungs. And I said earlier, I've had this asthmatic problem since about 1985 or earlier, but I informed about it in about 1985. And when I first started to play harmonica, this type of harmonica, about 1992, 93, I'd be playing in front of an audience like you, and then I'd be coughing in between. Very seldom cough now. And I don't know if the medications I take have caused it to improve, but I know my harmonica playing has improved, has strengthened my lungs, and it has made it very comfortable for me to enjoy life a little bit more. Now, being a former recreation man, and I'm professionally trained as a recreation person, one of the conditions that we talk about is to recreate your life. And in your case, in our case, we had to recreate the portion of life that made it very difficult to go from day to day, breathing. And so I say, well, I don't know if I can play the harmonica. I have right now about 35, 40 people playing harmonica with me in my group, and I have another 35 people signed up to take my beginner's class in October. I average about 30 to 40 people throughout the year, and we play every week. We entertain throughout the year at the nursing homes, community events, and so forth. And we play music that are familiar to people in our age category. It's very interesting. Young kids today don't play the harmonica, except for the small ones that they use in rock and roll type blues band type music accompaniment. But we use the harmonica in more. We can play classical music, popular music, folk music, any kind of music. I'm going to demonstrate for you in a few minutes the kind of music that we play. But anyway, some of you may say, well, I don't know if I can play with my condition. Let me tell you about a little boy that I work with. He is of a hit-and-run accident, and was paralyzed from the neck down, and they call them quadriplegic. And he's paralyzed completely from the neck down. And he can talk, he can see, he can eat, but he has everything he does besides that has to be done for him. He has to be fed, he has to, all his personal hygiene and everything is done for him. And when I go and work with him on the harmonic, I have to hook it up for him, and then he plays. But he plays. He learned. I taught him how to read harmonica notes. These are musical notations, just like the standard music notations, but we use numbers instead. And so it's very easy for him to learn how to play the harmonica. And he plays the harmonica like anybody else. Let me demonstrate for you one of the songs that we're going to, the songs that we play in our harmonica group. Thank you. I don't know if you noticed, but there are, and I don't know how many of you know your musical notes, but in this particular song, I chose it because I could demonstrate what I was trying to put across. There's a portion in there where I draw. That's a draw, and I draw for 6 measures. And 6 measures, and each has 4 beats. That's 24 beats that I'm drawing. And then, of course, I'm blowing in between. The blow is about 2 measures at the most. But the draw is where I'm drawing. And you can't get any better exercise for your lungs and strengthen your lungs than by blowing the harmonica. And it's you enjoy life, and you are recreating your life and when you do this. So I highly recommend people take up music, and almost everybody enjoys music. And there are different things that you can do to strengthen your lungs. Of course, one is you can sing, you can walk, you can swim. Those of you who can remove yourself from the oxygen tank for a few minutes at a time, go swimming. I don't know if you noticed, but those of you who have phlegm build up all the time, if you go into salt water in the ocean especially, you come out clean. Every time you spit or blow out, all that phlegm comes out. And swimming is one of the best exercises. I used to teach swimming to hundreds of kids when I was in recreation, and it's one of the best exercises you can do. And then, of course, you play the harmonica. So if you do all of these things, you're going to have a better life and enjoy yourself a little bit more. Thank you.
Okay, all right. I'm thinking that maybe there's a marketing opportunity. Can't you just see it now? Playing the harmonica with Robert, and it's a whole new CD set, and you pop it in there, and you could have a whole second business, Robert. Anyway, thank you so much for the demonstration. And our next speaker is a health educator from Breathe L. She's here to talk about the National Heart, Lung, Blood Institute's National Learn More, Breathe Better campaign. I'd like you to meet Claudia Medina.
Good morning, everyone. Please let me know if you are having trouble hearing me. And thank you for the nice welcome. It is my first time here in Hawaii that don't know me, and I'm very pleased to be here today. Also, I would like to thank each and everyone for being here, especially those that have recently been diagnosed with COPD. Excuse me. I think I need to clear my throat. I actually had a cookie before here. Actually, I do. I have some in my bag. Yes. I'm sorry. It's just that I have a throat condition, which also interacts with my breathing. But that'll be great. I'm so sorry for this. Thank you. This is very awkward. I've never taken a sip of water in real lifetime webcam. Anyway, having said that, I was saying, I wanted to thank and congratulate those that are here today and that have recently been diagnosed with COPD, but also to acknowledge that there are many people out there that are undiagnosed with COPD that their breath of life is being highly affected, and this is why Breathe LA has joined the COPD Learn Better Breather campaign to raise and strengthen the COPD network so that we can continue to outreach to the public and raise awareness of COPD. So I'm here today to inform you of additional COPD educational resources that Breathe the Lay and the NHLBI COPD Learn Better Breathers campaign has here to offer you. We also provided some materials that I believe Valerie has displayed, and it's being introduced to you in addition to the portion of the conference. Do I just click here? I don't know if you can hear my voice. I'm a little bit nervous. Let's see. I just click. There you go. Great. Pardon me? Great. Thank you. I feel much better now. So before I continue, I also wanted to take a moment to acknowledge one of our current funders, as I mentioned them and have mentioned them constantly. But Breathe the Lay continues to be very, very grateful for their continuous support. And today's presentation, Breathe the Lay is conducted this presentation under a subcontract through the National Heart and Lung Blood Institute. And it's very important that funds as these be taken into consideration. They are a vital part of the communities, especially among those professional cares facilitators that provide education resources and outreach out in the community to the public. How many of you guys have heard of the National Heart and Lung and Blood Institute? Can I see a raise of hands? It seems that it's very few. Let me quickly just go down the information that I have here for you so you can know a little bit more about this campaign for those that have not heard of them. The campaign basically targets people that are over the ages of 45, men and women, of course, and also that have been smoked, that are smokers or have smoked in the past, and that also have a high-risk generics and also environmental exposure that puts them at that risk for COPD. And also towards community-based organizations such as Breathe the Lay and among other COPD coalitions. And towards medical providers. They're giving for free access to, whether it's electronically where you can download their information, and you don't have to necessarily be a medical provider. Anyone can have access to their website, just visiting their page, and download any educational material that you may have there to share, also with your loved ones. The campaign mission is to increase COPD awareness. As many of you may know, COPD continues to strike as now the third leading cause of death in the United States. Also to increase understanding that COPD is treatable, which is good news, but it's really only treatable when it's actually detected at an early stage. This is why it's very important for us to continue to advocate, let others know that this disease is a serious disease that should be taken into consideration and to be tested for. And also to encourage people to obtain a simple breathing test. As I was hearing earlier, speaking to Valerie, this is something that was also being provided to you earlier. But what about those that have never ever heard of COPD? It's very important to also reach out to a broader community as well. And encourage them to speak to their doctor. Let them know what are their signs and symptoms. And to also, it's very important that when you speak to your doctor, and these are some of the things that we talk to out in public, is that do not be ashamed or afraid to say, I used to be a smoker. For some reason, people, when they quit smoking, they think that whatever happened in the past stayed in the past. But sometimes some of our health behaviors that we do kind of tag along and follow us further down, and those effects don't show up until later on in life. Okay. So briefly, my agenda, I'm just going to briefly introduce who Breathe the Lay is. I already spoke about the campaign. I don't think I want to speak a little bit more about them. Also, something very important that brings us here and has actually connected Breathe the Lay, and it's with the co-partnership that we hold with the Hawaii COPD Coalition. under this partnership, we have a COPD Western Region Network. Talk about self-management for COPD patients, COPD resources for patients and providers, and of course the conclusion. So we've been around since 1903. That's a very, very long time, longer than many of you have been here. And our main mission and purpose of Assistant is to promote clean air and healthy lungs through research, education, advocacy, and technology. And I've been with my organization for almost 3 years now. The COPD Western Region Network, we're serving as a leadership partnership, and we're providing services to allow implement and promote COPD education events. We are also facilitating COPD region events, working with Hawaii, Arizona, Nevada, and Northern California and Southern California, where we actually reside. And due to the fact of the large number population that there is in California, this is why we have expanded throughout the state. We're also providing COPD educational resources as we brought in today. And we also provide, under this region network, staff and volunteer training. And this is something that Breathe LA has been doing last 3 years since I've been there. And one of the models that we actually have developed and used is we do train the trainer model, where we go out to the community and we train others so they can go ahead and replicate that information, and so we can actually expand it more to a broader area. So a little bit about the some of the services that we have. We have community-based services and professional support for those that are already engaging out in the community and screening, providing lung capacity exams out in the public, and as well as training stations, and therefore. Among this training, we are providing surveys. These are outreach surveys that allow us to do one-on-one education out in the community, but we can also do test knowledge by providing a survey that we accumulate, and we are able to see which areas of our community need more information on COPD, and there we link it with free clinics and local hospitals, and then we bring in local medical allied volunteers that can help us conduct such as health fairs where we can do screening as well. And then also manage COPD management classes. These classes are, for instance, for people that have already been diagnosed with COPD, but our classes actually consist of a session of 6 sessions of an hour each, and they're available for anybody that have been diagnosed with COPD. Since we reside in Southern California, all of our resources that we have are bilingual information, so we have it in English and in Spanish. And like I said, professional facilitating training, we go out and we bring up to speed medical allies that may be working with doctors or in clinics, and train their staff so that they will also have the knowledge as to what can they, questions if they're being asked from patients that have COPD, or as they conversate with those patients, there may be some red flags alerts that they should also be recommended to having them speak to their doctor when they go in for their initial assessment. We work very closely with volunteers, and I can't express how thankful we are for having such volunteers that really care for the breath of life of others. We train partners these partners that we have developed with, and mainly they are consisting of universities and community colleges that have nursing programs, pre-med students, as well as respiratory therapists. We train the partners, and those partners train their students, and then their students rejoin us out in the community, and we can also do referrals out. We have done referrals out. So having said that, this type of training is what, under the Region Network, is here to provide to you. Whether you're interested in contacting the network itself directly, we can provide this type of information for you by mailing out or by providing a free training live through webinar or also by using Skype. And that's another component that we have used very highly. But within this training, we, again, incorporate the train-the-trainer model, and we provide COPD as to what it is. We do a completion test, and then we also, something very important is that we also go over some of the basic spirometry guidelines that there needs to be addressed, especially when you're working out in the community. By these guidelines, we have also a pre-assessment screener that allows volunteers to detect if it's safe to conduct a spirometry exam to a participant, meaning there's a questionnaire that would need to be addressed. And for instance, an example, are you under the care of a physician for high blood pressure? If the participant answers yes, therefore we would recommend for them to still get tested, still get the lung capacity exam, but not there at the event, but rather in their own doctor's office. And this is only it's more for a safety issue. And then also, we ask other questions such as, for instance, have you had surgery in the past 6 weeks? If they say yes, this also includes even eye surgery. And the reason why it's so important, can anybody guess? Why is it so important to ask especially this type of question of any type of surgery in the past 6 weeks? Any of the pre-med students here? Well, as you know, when you do a lung capacity exam, you breathe in very deep in, and it uses a lot of force to breathe out. By doing that, you can actually damage some of the capillary veins, and they can also additional damage to the wound that is still in healing. And this is why it's very important to instead wait until the healing period ends or have the test be done at your doctor's office. So these are some of the things that sometimes we don't think about, and we have seen many health fair events where you can go get a free blood pressure, a free glucose test for checking for your diabetes and what have you. But we have to also protect the public. And of course, all this training, we're incorporating also the Learn More, Breathe campaign materials, and it's made available for free. So there may be a question here to address. What if one of our convenient partners say that they reside in Arizona and they're contacting the Region Network? How do we provide this training to them? Well, we can do the training, like I said, through live webinar, and then we can also ship out the material to them by providing videos that we have customized for that main purpose. And in here, I just wanted to share some pictures of us, some of the previous volunteers that we have had engaged in our program. The very top picture that you see there, this is actually done at a Mexican consulate. Excuse me, there goes that voice again. At a Mexican consulate, where we brought out nursing students that were there to conduct lung capacity exams. Like I said, we're multitasking. We're also addressing the Spanish-speaking community as well as the English-speaking community. And at the bottom, we have additional volunteers that they're actually already graduated. They're respiratory therapists now, and that they continue to come back to our nation and not necessarily volunteer out in the community, but also within our organization. So if anybody contacts Breathe LA, for any of these educational resources that we have to offer here for you, you might be addressed by Nicole, especially Nicole, who is actually my private assistant. We also do Better Breathers Clubs. How many of you guys here belong to a Better Breathers Club? Is there a Better Breathers Club here in Hawaii or in Honolulu? Not all over Hawaii? Okay, because I didn't quite see a high number of hands. Well, for those of you that have not heard of such name, Better Breathers Club, it's actually a support group that allows people that have been diagnosed with COPD and family members to join and together do activities and also together learn from each other and support each other, and additional information is given to them as well. It's my understanding, at least with California, these Better Breeders Clubs are free. And they also involve in newsletters where it keeps them up-to-date information as to what's going on in the process of new findings with COPD, as well as club member activities. These activities, some of our Better Breeders Clubs, they actually go out and they'll rent a bus transportation and they'll go off to Laughlin, Nevada, or they go off to Las Vegas, or they'll just go to a local church together and play bingo and what have you. So it's a very, very, very active support group. And personally, I enjoy going along with them as well. Also, within the support group, educational workshops are also interacted and engaged, where they are also provided with COPD management classes to furthermore learn how to manage their disease. Also, professional speakers are brought in to speak to them. And usually in the past, we have had, for instance, speakers that speak on diet, special diets, foods that COPD patients should stay away from, and foods that they should be actually enhancing more, as well as nutrition and also yoga. Another component that we're also interested in bringing along pretty soon is the Eat Breathers program, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. Also, the question here, another question is, if you're interested in starting your own Better Breathers Club, how do you go by doing that? The Region Network, under our campaign, we can provide training for you, and this training is for free. We have developed a Better Breathers Club curriculum. The training does consist of weeks, about 3 to 4 hours. Even though there is a distance here, we can do the training through live webinar, and before the training, we can actually mail all the materials to you as well. Usually, if you're looking to start Better Breeders Club, your best resource that will allow you to, so for other organizations to share their facilities so that a certain number of group can actually join. The meetings are usually your community centers, public centers, like at parks, also senior centers. And here in Hawaii, I'm pretty sure that if you were to contact the Hawaiian COPD Coalition, they're going to actually give you more information about that. Here we have a picture of one of our Better Breathers Clubs that we actually have at a pulmonary rehab center, which is another also good place that to join and form a support group. We also have the Eat Breathers program. How many of you guys heard of this program? I believe that Margaret Neal, who used to, she's a nurse practitioner that developed this program, and that we in the past, Breathe LA in the past, has provided funding for her research, where she did her study, and through real live interactive telehealth, that's, and using the Skype. How many of you guys know what Skype means? Because I may be not using terms here that you're not familiar with. Okay, it's a online program that is free. It's downloadable to a device, your computer or laptop, and that allows you to communicate in live, at real time to others. So you can actually see the person you're communicating with, same as what you see there in the picture. So for those that have COPD, sometimes it's difficult, especially if you're not having a good day, to commute to other locations, to walk to other locations, to drive to other locations, or to even just get it out of bed. It just makes it a little bit more difficult at times. So this is an excellent program that will allow self-management for people that have COPD. And we also have access to, we're just finishing up the piling to the program, but it will also be accessible to anyone that's interested in bringing such program to their current facilities for COPD patients. So what does that consist of? It consists of teaching using the Presley breathing method. Are you guys familiar with the Presley breathing method? Because right now I'm about to want to use it because it's very relaxed. Okay. Oh, great. So, okay. Excellent. And then also consists of a laptop and internet access, of course, and then using the Skype software and an oximeter as well. So you usually have a nurse, a respiratory therapist, or your own physician that can guide you and teach you on these methods and how to use the Presley breathing that's going to be demonstrated later on. And the main purpose of this is actually to help to reduce shortness of breath. Once you are introduced to the Presley breathing method, you can actually use that at any place that you may be when you feel that that shortness of breath is actually coming on. As I was mentioned, Dr. Margaret Neal, who developed this program, also within her studies demonstrated that after 12 weeks of her focus group that she conducted the study with, show a significant reduce of shortness of breath. So it has been proven to be quite effective. So just to wrap up because I've been told that I'm running out of time. We also have media and resources. We have videos that we can provide to you, or you can visit our website to download. On COPD orientation, they're usually about 10 minutes long, and these are also provided bilingual, and then also educational lung capacity exams, videos that can be utilized when you're out in the public, especially if you want to engage in raising COPD awareness. And then also we have videos on testimonies from others that have gone before us, but have also used to belong to our Better Breathers Clubs that have given their testimonials of what it was or what it is to actually live with COPD, and also to encourage others to stop smoking. And some of the educational lung capacity exam, that's the only one that currently remains not available, but all the rest are upon request, and the only reason is that we're actually in the process of translating that video. And you can also visit the learnaboutcopd.org and download any of the other essentials that they have there to provide, such as with the speakers guides and the reference cards, and then also PSAs. Okay, so that concludes my presentation. I believe later on we're going to go ahead and have more Q&A, so open for discussion if anybody's interested to learning more about joining our name. Thank you.
They're gone. They're okay. Perfect. Thanks very much, Claudia. It's always helpful to hear what's happening regionally and nationally, too, and how that interfaces with what we're doing here. Next, we have two attorneys, George Massengale, who's a legislative strategist and advocate, and one you all know by now, Valerie Chang, who is a retired judge, the executive director and co-founder of Hawaii COPD Coalition, as well as a patient advocate. They don't need a whole lot more of introduction, do ya? Where are you? There's George. Attorneys can talk.
Come on, Valerie.
We know, we
Get
know,
up
but
here.
our time is limited, so you guys are going to have to be self-limiting as well.
We're fast.
Actually, we can both do this together, probably.
Song and dance.
Yeah, we do this all the time at the Capitol. We show up and we don't know what the hell we're doing there. So, but we figure something out. But and we have 1 minute.
And
Yeah.
they cut the mic.
But I was going to talk a little bit about systemic advocacy, which is the broader picture on how how the policies that they make, the bills they pass at the legislature impact people here. And I think, the perfect example of that would be the no smoking law that was passed in 2006, which I had the pleasure of working on. And that, I think, by itself, prohibiting smoking in workplaces and public places probably had the biggest impact on COPD in Hawaii than anything else that's happened in recent years. However, right now my big concern is access to care. We're after we get outside of Honolulu, we're a rural state. So what do we do about Hana or people in Hilo who do have COPD or other chronic diseases that need to get treatment? Many times they have to fly over here, get their treatment over here. They have to take off from work, or they have to bring a family member with them. So it's quite costly. So I'm very interested in making sure that the people in the square building across the street do them in the future.
And one of the other issues, George, that has been mentioned by Liz Tam and some of the other speakers is that some of us need oxygen to fly. Personally, I need it. I never did for the first 7 years that I was diagnosed, but the last 3 years I need oxygen to fly, and it's very expensive. If you don't have a machine that will give you oxygen, you have to rent it from a company or something, and the rural patients need it to fly in if they don't have it that their lungs are producing. So that's another issue that has never been adequately addressed. Go ahead.
And Valerie, I'll just use Valerie's example. Valerie and I have talked about that and what do we need to do to get that going, and so that's something that we'll be discussing further. I know there are a number of supply of oxygen equipment.
Upstairs.
Yeah, upstairs even. Maybe we need a law that requests that people can rent equipment for 2 or 3 days. That there's some type of minimum rental instead of a maximum rental. So something to think about.
Well, actually, the FAA is actually considering it, but given the current state of the budget, that has been tabled for quite a while. But the exciting thing is at least they do allow you to bring a concentrator on board. That is only since we've been working on that since about 2007. It became law everywhere. It was the last airlines that allowed oxygen in a portable oxygen concentrator on planes, and it passed just in time for me because that's when I started needing it. But do you want to tell them more about how to be an advocate? Do they have to be a professional like you, George?
Absolutely.
Or can they be just
No,
any of us?
You'd be a professional like me. In fact, I'm the worst advocate at the Capitol. When I go see legislators, they look at me and go, "Oh, it's George." I guess I got to see him because he's representing the Cancer Society here today. So I'll give him 5 minutes, and then I give him my speech, and then he's gone. The people they need to hear from is the people here. When you can come up to the Capitol, or you're how many people know who their representative is, state representative?
That's a good number.
Hey, I'm impressed. That's the perfect person to start with. When you make an appointment with your state representative and you go to their office as a constituent from their district, they'll listen. They'll listen to you first before they listen to me, and the other lobbyists that hang out at the Capitol. So that's the first place to start. But I know Valerie was going to talk a little bit more about self-advocacy, so I'll just turn most of this over to her and step back.
Well, an exciting opportunity all of you have. If you have a calendar, you can mark it down. October 8th, Kahala Mall from 10 to 2. Everyone knows where Kahala Mall is. Our elected officials will be there. They're going to be there for a health fair. You can also see many of the exhibitors there. They're also going to be doing a check presentation. They're giving us a check that Kaiser Permanente has awarded us for $25,000. But this will be an opportunity for you to talk to them out in the community. So far, Suzanne Chan Oakland, Representative Mark Hashem, and City Councilman Stanley Chang have agreed to come. I'm going to be calling the other people in the area and see if any of them are also going to be attending. That's an opportunity to do one-on-one. You don't have to go find parking. Kalamal has lots of parking. You can tell them your concern and see them out in the community. They can see some of the issues we're facing. As George says, I was going to do the how to be an advocate, since this is the do-it-yourself health. One of the reasons we have to advocate is this graph here. As you can see, there's 141,000 plus deaths every year from COPD, and there's only 11,000 plus from AIDS. Somehow AIDS gets $3 billion a year in funding, and COPD gets 118 million. There's some sort of an imbalance here, and I don't think enough of our elected people know it. Especially since 1 in 4 of us are at risk of becoming COPD patients. So I think all of us need to raise our voices and say, you know, this is something we should all be talking about. We should be at the table. Electronic medical records are here. Where is COPD? Where is tobacco cessation on these electronic medical records? Where is asthma control? Where are these things so that we can make sure our state and our nation has the best health we can? So this is one way we can all, this can be printed, it's online. I can send it to anybody that wants it. I'll put it in our next newsletter as well. This is just one of the facts from NIH CDC. So it is something that is really not controversial, it's there. The way my doctor, when I was first diagnosed in 2000, I thought that my life as I knew it was over, and actually, in some ways, it was. Before that, I always considered myself perfectly healthy. In 2000, I was told I have severe emphysema, and I said, gee, am I going to die? What's next? And they said, well, you might need a lung transplant anytime soon. And I'm like, excuse me, I'm 42, I have young children, this can't be happening. But you know, we can't write our script. All we can do is do the best we can with what we've got. So my doctor, I flew to Denver in 2000, and I went to National Jewish, which is the #1 respiratory hospital in the United States, because I couldn't get the answers I wanted. And he said, you know, what you have is a chronic disease. That means I can't give you a Band-Aid. No one can give you a Band-Aid. There's really not good miracle cures that can make us better anytime soon. What you can be is a good quarterback. I will be your coach, but you're going to be the quarterback. And that was a really major paradigm shift for me, because I always expected the doc to be on the pedestal and give me all the answers. But like Dr. Tam said, she's training her people to work with all of us. And what we need to do is we need to do it ourselves. We need to come in with numbers. We need to say, okay, I know I learned all I could. I went to the Ed Day, I go to my support groups, I read materials. There's tons of materials everywhere in this building. Read the materials, learn what you can, ask questions. There are so many brilliant people in this room, including each of you. You guys all know what people have taught you, you know what you've lived, and there's a lot of healthcare professionals. My staff has an average of between 15 and 30 years of it. They're nurses, they're respiratory therapists, they're all kinds of healthcare professionals. They're here to help you, okay? And then we need to be a good detective reporter. By that, we mean we have to ask questions. We have to ask, how am I doing? How can I do better? What can I do to make myself healthier? How can I be a better partner? We have to ask ourselves, and we have to ask our healthcare professionals. And the doctors have very limited time. Honestly, they have all kinds of time pressures, so we can't put it all on them. We have to ask our pharmacists. We have to ask the nurse. We have to ask other people. And we have to ask each other. Because that way, the questions that only the doctor can ask, we can reserve for the doctor. But there's a ton of questions the pharmacist can answer. The pharmacists are specially trained on how our meds work together, which ones maybe we should not take together, all kinds of things that we don't really think about. And they can even do whether we're using our inhalers well, whether we could use them better, whether our technique is as good as it could be. And then we got to form solid partnerships, which means, even if we're upset because we waited in the waiting room longer than we wanted to, we got to understand maybe the other patient had, major crisis, maybe their diabetes is not under good control, so it took a little longer. So, as long as we keep our partnerships and we say, I understand, must have been a tough day, and we have our questions in order. I always like to write everything in order, put the most important question I have on the top, and then the ones that are less important on the bottom. And I might get to only the top 3, but at least I give my doctor have a copy, and we go over, and then they know and I know what the top 3 issues I want to ask about are. And then we can have a more centered visit so that I'm not going here and there. Oh yeah, my foot is bothering, but I'm here for my lungs. Oh yeah, I'm here for my lungs. And then keep in touch with, our team. We have to make sure that our doctors still are not good at mind reading, and our pharmacists too. We haven't gone that far. They're working on it. But right now, we all have to try and touch. I mean, there's no reason we can't call the doc and say, I don't want to bother you, but I think you'd rather me bother you now than at 2 a.m. on Saturday or Sunday in the morning. So I just thought I should tell you I'm coughing up a little yellow phlegm, which is unusual for me. And then the doc will say, thank you for calling. My nurse will call in a prescription for where's your closest pharmacy? And then you'll get it. Instead of, oh, I'll wait. 4 in the morning, I can't wait. I'm really doing bad. I need to go to the ER. So these are things we can do to take charge. And to me, that's what it's all about. We need to be the best partners we can because there are so few resources out there. There are, as Claudia said, NHLBI has been a great partner. They have helped provide some funding for this event, and they have helped create this region, and we are part of that region. And there are resources out there. You can contact us, and we can help put you in touch with what other resources there are. We have a support group that meets every second Friday at Kaiser Honolulu on Pensacola from 10 to noon. It is free. We have many guest speakers that are professionals in all kinds of different areas, and they will talk. If you have a topic we don't even have on the agenda, we'll be happy to add it. And these are some of the types of people that are helpful to have on our team. Healthcare professionals, of course. Family, that's my wonderful husband that has been running around like a maniac and been very understanding. My 2 children, my son is our webmaster. My daughter tries to help make our website a little less boring. And then we need to be in touch, whether it's by email, by computer, by phone, by face-to-face meetings. And we need to use all of those things to be as current as we can. And this is one of our support group meetings. Dr. Ray Sykes with palliative care at Kaiser was our guest speaker at that. Uncle Joe is there. Many of you see familiar faces there. And I think together we're always much stronger than individually, and I'd like to thank George for helping us make the point that together we can advocate better for ourselves and work better as a team with our docs, healthcare team.
Thanks very much to Valerie and to George. And if I can add just one tiny thing that comes from my family's experience, sometimes it's tough to advocate for yourself, and it can be really, really helpful if you bring a family member or trusted friend with you. Their ears are going to hear things a little bit differently, perhaps, than you might hear with so much information coming at you, or as Valerie said, when she got her diagnosis and suddenly the onslaught of all the emotion. It can be very helpful to have another person there who is not feeling the same things that you are. So if you've got a good family friend, family member, could be a good thing to take them with you as well. Okay, so we are going to move along. Thank you so much for sticking with us, even though we're running a little bit late. That's okay. It's important stuff we're doing. Now, helping us to stay in touch with the digital age, we have two speakers to talk about a pilot program they've just recently completed using interactive computers to communicate with COPD patients. Introduce to you researcher and assistant professor of nursing at the University of Hawaii at Manoa School of Nursing and Dental Hygiene, Deborah Mark, and with her is respiratory therapist and chief simulation specialist at the Johnny Burns School of Medicine, Chris Hara. Welcome them both.
Well, thank you very much for that welcome, and it's a great opportunity to be here to speak with you about our project. And what happened to Chris down there? Okay. Claudia kind of gave us an introduction for this study because the designer of the study is actually Dr. Margaret Neild. And she moved to California after she wrote this study and got it funded. And then Chris and I have had the opportunity to manage it in her absence. She still is involved in it, though. So basically, our study is, let me go back, is the effect of pursed-lip breathing on COPD quality of life. And this is a feasibility or a pilot study that was conducted mostly to if Skype would be a good method for providing pursed-lip training to people with COPD. We also had a Curtis Ikihara. Dr. Ikihara was our computer engineer, so he designed the laptops that went into the participants' homes in a way that made it very simple for them to use. All they literally had to do was open up the laptop, and it pretty much ran itself. So dyspnea is the most frequently reported as well as the most distressing symptom, as you know, for people with COPD. And pursed-lip breathing is defined as a respiratory resistance that is created by constricting the lips. And that's the training that was provided to our participants. And although we know that pursed-lip breathing is effective, we don't find that it's generically or generally given as training to every person that's diagnosed with COPD. So we'd like to spread the word. So the purpose of the study was to explore the feasibility of using the internet to do the pursed-lip breathing training and to also compare the structured training with for reducing dyspnea and improving the quality of life for our participants. So the methods that we used was a randomized control trial with a weight control list. Now that sounds very researchy, I know. Basically what we wanted to do was have two groups. We had a group that was called the experimental group that immediately got the training with Chris. And what they did was everybody had an initial educational information about pursed-lip breathing and about COPD. Chris answered many of the questions. And then they spent 1 hour each week over 4 weeks learning how to do pursed-lip breathing. And it was done over Skype or the internet. And they took surveys at baseline at 4 weeks and 12 weeks. What that means by waitlist control group is that the control group only got the initial education. They did the surveys over 12 weeks, and then when they were all done with the experimental or the study part of it, they were offered the option to actually have the intervention with Chris, sort of as a gift to them at the end. Because this was a feasibility study, we only had 24 patients, and actually they were randomized into those two groups, but they were randomized equally such that we ended up with 12 in the experimental group and 12 in the control group. And we did not make a requirement that people had experience with computers. Recruitment was our largest challenge, which is interesting given the numbers of people that were diagnosed with COPD. It took us 2 years to recruit 24 subjects. Oh, now it's going backwards. Oh, sorry. So this is what the setup looked like. Intervention was, like I said, an initial pursed-lip breathing educational session with Chris, and Chris is on your right, and she's actually down at the bottom of the stairs here too. We met everyone at the School of Nursing on campus at the university, and she gave them approximately about 2 hours worth of teaching. And then the computer was set up in their home, and you can see it. I don't have a pointer, but on your right hand side, the webcam is on a stand, which means that that's the visual part of the interaction. The headset is on the right underneath that webcam, and it is for the audio portion of it. And then the laptop in the middle allowed the participants to see Chris, and for Chris to see the participant. That big black box on the left is the internet, or the modem, if you will. So like I said, they had weekly interactions with Chris, registered respiratory therapist. As in all research, we get to do surveys. We get to collect data. We collected the same kind of data from all participants, whether they were in the experimental group or in that waitlist control group. So we did a bunch of surveys at baseline, at the 4-week training session, and then at 12 weeks later. We wanted to see if that training had a lasting effect. We wanted to ask them about their dyspnea reduction, and then those other tools below are really measurements of quality of life. So just to give you an idea, this was an instrument that Dr. Tam actually talked about. There's really only 5 measures on it, although there were 6 there on the slide. We eliminated those that scored 1 on that Medical Research Council or breathlessness scale. And this is how the rest of our participants, even though there were only 24 of them, spread out that. So we had some participants that had little difficulty with breathing or breathlessness, and we had others that had severe breathlessness. Just to give you an idea of the entire sample, because I really want to report the results of all the participants, we had a range of between 50s and 80 years of age, with the average of 73 years old. Mostly twice as many females as males. A highly educated group. On average, this group had bachelor's degrees, which is not necessarily representative, obviously, of our population. And the other thing that was a bit concerning to us is that we were hoping that we would get people that were scared to death of computers, scared to death. But the majority of our participants chose to join the study actually were very, very comfortable with computers. So just to give you a quick result summary, basically we found out that doing pursed-lip breathing training over the internet works. That's bottom line. And I think that has some serious implications for how we address our rural populations particularly. And we also found improvements in dyspnea management. Now, I can tell you all these things, but I think what's more important is what participants say. And so that's what will be the focus of the end of my talk, and then Chris is going to get up here and do the fun stuff. But anyway, one of our participants said, "I now breathe easier and can do things I couldn't before, like climbing in and out of my son's huge truck. My doctor also noticed the difference." A second participant said, "During a recent move, I went into a panic and was short of breath and wheezing, but I started my breathing exercises that Chris taught her, and it helped me a lot." Another participant said, "Pursed-lip breathing made a big difference for me. I am now able to remain off the expensive inhalation medication and enjoy my daily exercises much more." We got in touch with him just recently, 6 months later, and he says, "I'm still off my medication and using the breathing technique on a daily basis, especially during my morning exercises. I've been able to increase my exercises and feel much better during the day." We also had one participant, I don't have a quote from them, that were able to, he was able to return to work as a result of this training. So in conclusion, pulmonary rehabilitation programs, which pursed-lip breathing is a part of, has many benefits for people with COPD at all stages of their disease. The Agency for Research, Healthcare, and Quality just updated their guideline and found that continues to be true, although what the studies have shown, and ours actually did also, is that at the end of the 4 weeks, breathlessness improves. But at the 12-week stage, the benefits of it reduce because people don't practice their breathing exercises or don't use them. So in keeping with this conference, Do-It-Yourself Health, I think the message is that you need to continue to practice what Chris is about to teach you. So what we conclude is that breathing retraining over the internet may prove to be a really important resource for people with COPD when they want to do it yourself. So now it is my great honor to introduce Chris Hara, who is going to teach you all how to do pursed lip breathing.
Hi, everybody. My name is Liz. I'm so happy to see you. I'm sorry it's not going to be 1 hour for 4 weeks, but you got me for, I think, 7 minutes because we're on a timeline. And I did want to mention the fact that, you know, the quote about I was able to get off my medication. Well, as a healthcare provider, I kind of go, oh, no, you know, if your doctor has prescribed it for you, oh, my gosh, please, you know, with him. If he feels it's something you should continue to do, you guys got to talk story. Don't just put it in the cabinet and walk away now. I'm going to get scolding. So that I wanted to mention. I'm going to move, and Ryan, the AV guy, he's going to move the video to here because I want to be able to show you my lips and my belly. Sorry. I've started Zumba. That's for you. But pursed lip breathing is not a secret. And I think when we go overboard on anything, whether it's you know, taking more puffs than we're supposed to, or going faster on our walk than we're ready for, we don't feel so good. So what I'd like to say is, what I teach you, don't feel more is better. If it makes you feel uncomfortable, stop. Relax, take a break. Try it again later. Maybe some of your friends here or your physician of, gosh, I got this 5-minute, really quick pursed lip breathing training, and I tried it. It didn't make me feel better. It made me feel worse, or whatever it is. Because we want you to stay connected with one another, that's the best way to get the best health care. Pursed lip breathing is basically working on your exhalation. We don't want you to take a deeper breath than is normal. If you are running on the treadmill, when I do that, I have to take deep breaths because I'm short of breath. But when I'm sitting down or standing here talking with these beautiful people in the COPD Coalition, I'm relaxed. So my volume of air going into my lungs is a lot smaller. I want to be comfortable. So pursed lip breathing is a breath in. It's the exhalation part that is different. Instead of breathing out through your nose, you're going to breathe out through lips that are relaxed together. It looks like this. I breathe in when I need to. It's not rocket science, but it's easy to forget if you don't practice. So I'd like each one of you, relax your shoulders. Okay, now don't sit up in your chair. I'm not the teacher that's going to whack you in the knuckles if you're not doing this right. Okay, friend. So relax in your chair, relax your shoulders especially. And ladies, let's relax the opu, okay? That gives our diaphragm lots of room to move. Take a normal breath in and just let it come out through your lips that are relaxed together. Breathe in through your nose when you need to. Good. Breathe in when you need to through your nose. Let it come out your lips. Nice. You guys look relaxed in your shoulders. Awesome. Do you think you could keep this up for a couple minutes? I think so. It's pretty easy. It's not, oh, you know, if I do that for 5 times, I'm going to start feeling a little dizzy because I'm just working too hard. Now, you know that you'll have to adjust, because if you're walking, you're doing work, you're carrying grocery bag, you're going to automatically need to feed your body more breaths of oxygen, so you're going to breathe faster. You're going to breathe deeper. That's normal. That's good. Breathe in when you need to, and let it out through the lips. But I'm not squeezing it out, because that's going to make me work harder. We want to reduce the work of breathing. So the more relaxed you can be in your shoulders, your chest, your stomach, the less energy your body is going to need to make those muscles be contracted. That's good for you, because then you can use that energy savings to carry that 5-pound bag of rice that you just bought. Any questions? Awesome. Now remember, don't overdo it. Normal breath in. Let your lips relax together, and they're coming out of your lungs. Move through your lips. You're not having to squeeze it out. You're just letting it out through your lips. The theory, what's going on behind this, let me clue you in. When people have COPD, there's a problem with the air sacs. You have air tubes, and it ends up in these cute little bubble-looking things called air sacs. They look like grape clusters, but they're very delicate. When you breathe in, your diaphragm gets the message from the brain, time to breathe in. Brain says to the diaphragm. Diaphragm goes, okay, and then it descends. It contracts, and when it contracts, it gets lower, flatter. That makes your lungs suck in air. Those air sacs can expand, transfer oxygen in, transfer CO2, carbon dioxide out. But if you have COPD, those tiny air tubes that are connected to the air sacs, they are kind of floppy. So when you breathe in, bigger, but when you breathe out, they kind of flop down. They get smaller in diameter than normal, which causes the air sac not to get as much air out. So you feel like you start getting full of air. You feel hyperinflated. You feel like you just can't get a good breath in. If you purse lip breathe when you exhale through your lips, you will stabilize those tiny little air tubes much better. So instead of collapsing as much as you exhale, you will provide a back pressure as you exhale, and it'll prop those air tubes open. And as they stay open longer, guess what? More air can escape. But not at the expense of you working harder. You are merely redirecting your exhaled air through lips that are relaxed together. A lot of theory. Basically, breathe in normal breath, whatever feels comfortable at the let it out through the lips. Breathe in when you feel like it, and out through the lips. Any questions? You guys are awesome. Thank you.
I'm so relaxed. Hope you all are too, but not so relaxed. You don't pay attention to our next speaker, because it's somebody who I think you probably all may know. And thanks very much, by the way, to Dr. Mark and to Chris Hara. That was really very good. Now, we're having a mini discussion down here. Okay. Well, I think we're going to have Dr. Christine Fukui come up and talk to you for a moment. We'll also ask our other speakers to come up as now, and then we'll have a Q&A as promised. But first, I'd like to have you meet again, because I know you know her, Dr. Christine Fukui. She is certified in pulmonary and sleep medicine, and she works for Tripler and Kaiser. Once upon a time, a couple of years ago, she thought she was retiring. Ha, ha, ha.
Thank you for being here.
Where do I press to advance?
What do you want to see?
Advance. Here? Mm-hmm. To advance the slides.
No, that's the phone.
Oh.
The slide advance is here.
Okay.
I'm asking, is it on here? Yeah, it's on the mouse. It's the
Oh,
mouse.
it's on the mouse.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
all right.
All righty. So this is a little different. Believe it or not, my trip to Galapagos is related to COPD. Okay? So, but I thought after all this sort of learning, while you're thinking of all your questions, start thinking of your questions. I'm going to give you a little few slides. So this is the ship. This is important. This is the ship on in the Galapagos in August. This is some of the things I saw. So there are these big sea lions and also really cute little sea lions. There's a Galapagos hawk. I'm not a photographer. This hawk was about 2 feet above my head. And we, about 10 or 12 of us, were walking underneath, and he just sat there. He was interested in eating this little bed. Now, this is how everyone got on and off this boat. This boat didn't come into a dock. You had to get into this Zodiac boat, and then they drove the Zodiac to the big boat, and then you had to climb up and down one of these little stairs, okay? So you got into the Zodiac, 12 people usually and a naturalist, and then you climbed up and down. And sometimes it was pretty, like when there were waves, your boat is going like this, and so you have to kind of time when you're going to get up to the stairs so you can get off. Why am I telling you this? It's because this was one of the passengers. And I saw there the first day, and after a couple days, it's a relatively small group, I got up my nerve and I said, "Can I take your picture?" And because I was thinking of this conference, and she said, "With or without my oxygen?" I said, "With your oxygen. I want this picture with your oxygen," because this is how she was on the entire trip. So now I showed that beginning to let you know how she had to get on and off the boat. And she got on and off the boat because the boat stopped several times a day. And, you know, sometimes she wouldn't get off for certain activities, but I know she got on and off that boat several times. So this is to prove that we were together. This was the picture. And this was her family. So she came with her daughter and the daughter's husband and their 3 children, the 2 boys and the girl. So her whole family was there with her. She probably chose this boat because it had a ship's doctor, who was actually a gastroenterologist that I spoke to. But there was a ship's doctor on board. And there she is on one of the excursions. So she had to get off. We were up this mountain. She had to get off the boat, on and off the boat, on the bus, walk through the town, get on the bus, get bussed up here. So it's possible. You know, this do-it-yourself, there were many elderly people on this boat. There was one fellow with a pacemaker, I know, and all sorts of different problems. But I was very impressed that there was this woman who obviously didn't let the fact that she had to be on oxygen prevent her from going on this trip, which was actually quite strenuous. There were things that I did not do because they were too strenuous, or I would fall down on the rocks or something. So, okay, let's open it up to the group here for questions. You all have, anyone have questions? We have a lot of interesting things today about different things you can do to help yourself. Is there anyone that has questions about anything that was said or how to get more information or explain things? What? Don't be shame.
So our famous talk show host is going to walk around and give you the mic and talk and ask a question.
How about now? We on? We're on. Good.
I just would like to get the website address for the Breathe LA from Miss Medina.
Okay, it's on now. That's www.breathe. Many people tend to forget the E at the end, la.org.
BreatheLA.org. Pretty simple. Okay, next question. Thank you.
And for anyone that's interested, on the program, there is the information. Oh, sorry. On the program, there is the website address for the Learn More, Breathe Better campaign. It's listed as one of the resources in the box in the inside cover.
We've got another question.
Are you still looking for volunteers on that group where your men are outnumbered by ladies?
Well, the study is closed, but that say that we won't have another. So look for us in the newspaper, and that was our best actually recruitment mechanism, was through the newspaper. But the study is done. Thank you.
Questions? Yes, a question here.
First, I want to say hi, Chris. For the breathing exercises and that, are they on YouTube? I mean, I'm just learning about this. At least I don't have COPD at this time or anything, but, to me, what you're talking about is something that's healthy for just maintain and to, like diet and exercise. But the breathing exercises sound very good, and especially this was mentioned before, that if you overbreathe in that, you can hurt your capillaries or whatever. So I just thought this pursed lip breathing, is it on YouTube or something that you can look at?
We did not put it on YouTube, but that's a great idea.
I think it's a great idea.
We tossed around an idea of doing on email at least, by doing some kind of little ad console, breathe. And then just showing the technique quite simply. That would be a wonderful thing. And we'll talk about it more with Valerie and the COPD Coalition. And, they have a lot of wonderful information on YouTube. But sometimes the messages are a little mixed. And I don't know if it's because of, it comes secondhand, third-hand knowledge. But excellent idea.
Is there a video at all of the breathing technique?
I've done YouTube searches and looked at, there are some teaching out there.
No, but one that
but
you've
not
done.
particular to our study.
Well, I'm certainly happy to put it on the Hawaii Public Radio website, ours, and mine for the show in particular. So we can see if we can disseminate it that way too, because I know YouTube can be tough to go through and get the right stuff when you want it. And Val put it up, and we can see what we can do.
Sure, the American Lung Association would be happy to add it to theirs as well, or at least the Hawaii American Lung. I don't know about anywhere.
So we have lots of ways we can disseminate. If you guys actually if you make it, we will show it.
Thank you.
The reason I asked that is, like you said, there's not a second hand. I mean, I was looking at lymphedema or even like knitting, but am I getting the real information, or is it just someone who is copying but is not getting the right technique? So that's why.
Thank you very much. There was another question here. Yes, thank you.
How often should you do this breathing? Every day?
That's a good question, and I failed to mention it.
I mean, 10 minutes, a half hour?
I failed to mention that when you say breathing exercises, it's a little bit of a misnomer. It's actually a breathing technique that you utilize when you need it, or you're preparing to do something that you know is going to cause you breathlessness. You can begin to purse lip breathe and then continue that technique as you do that activity. Or something causes you anxiety. And when you get anxious, everything elevates: blood pressure, respiratory rate, heart rate. Well, you can't, many people, I can't, moderate my blood pressure and say, blood pressure, come down. Heart rate, come down. I can't do that. But I can say, I'm going to breathe slower. That's something that I have control over. So if you're anxious and you can start to moderate your rate by pursed lip breathing, gradually getting back to a point where you're more comfortable in your breathing, you can use it effectively for that as well. So practicing more is better, but it's more often, not longer. So 1 hour of pursed lip breathing, don't do it. Couple minutes to start with, being relaxed. Every 3 or 4 hours, a couple minutes, perfect. Or if you watch TV, how many people watch TV? Commercial break, okay, 1 minute during your commercial break. Great. And it's a reminder to you that there is another tool in my tool belt. I got my physician, I got all my family, I got my pharmacist, I got the medication, I got techniques that I have used before that has helped me, and I got this new pursed lip breathing technique that I've got my lips with me always, 24 hours a day. I can use it.
You really need to do a video.
I was curious as to how you developed the name pursed lip breathing, because first described, or it wasn't described, it was just mentioned. I thought, okay, I have to learn how to do purse my lips up. But it's not that at all. You know, it's relaxed lip breathing.
I like that. But you know how the name sticks? It stuck. And I think it was a very good description maybe on how to show someone in a dramatic way how to moderate your breathing. So, and I think it's lips with an S because you got two lips. But anyway, an interesting point. I love it.
Now, I know we've got a bunch of hungry people here, but we have lots of time for questions if you want to take it. Any more questions?
Maybe we'll just, then we'll just do a wrap up. Everyone can say.
See, once you guys get going.
I have a question for Dr. Elizabeth Ham. And you were mentioning the doctors want to know the time between waking and the first cigarette in the morning. And you said because it breaks the fast, but are you guys like looking for something in particular?
Oh, no, it's not a fast. It's a fast of cigarettes. You know, when you're at night, usually that's the last cigarette of the day. And then when you sleep, you know, 5, 8, sometimes 12 hours, the nicotine level drops. So when you wake up in the morning, that's the lowest nicotine level. And it's a sign of the addiction. If someone really has to have a cigarette, you know, you ask people, some of them smoke right in bed. They cannot get out of bed. They're that addicted. And like I said, I had actually 2 or 3 patients who had to smoke before getting out of bed, a couple hours before, and then they'd get up hours later. But it's because the nicotine level is lowest in the morning when you wake up. And so you're gauging the addiction, and then maybe some of these people, you really are they're gonna need nicotine replacement as part of it.
Any more questions, or shall we bring this to a close?
Okay, one last
We've got down here. Very good.
Questions for Dr. George.
Okay, George.
What's in the hopper for the state capitol next year?
That's
A
a really
preview.
great question. It's going to be, in my opinion, and I think a lot of the insiders at the Capitol share this viewpoint, it's going to be another tough year this session, this coming session. We still have some budget issues that need to get resolved. You know, it's a misnomer at the end of the sessions when they say we passed the budget, you know, everything is equal. It's only equal for about 35 seconds, and then it's out of control again. So we're back in the deficit right now. We don't know what's going to happen with that. And the reality is, until we get the state's fiscal house in order, there's not going to be the discretionary spending for various types of health programs, such as COPD or additional spendings for cancer or asthma control. It's not going to happen until the economy resolves itself. So it's going to be another gruesome year.
Reason why I ask is because next year's an election year.
Yep.
And it's time to go into his arms. So let's go get him.
It is an election year, and I've been following the redistricting. There are going to be some changes, but not. There's some shifting, but not that much. So I think most of the people are going to be fairly safe in their existing seats.
All right, everyone. I think we're going to wrap it up for now. And Val, you have some final remarks to make, and also I want to thank Dr. Fukui for being here as the chair of this event, and my apologies, my sincere, for not saying that because you did a great job. Everyone did a great job. Valerie, you too, another wonderful panel and another wonderful COPD Education Day. Thank you. Please help me thank all of them for being here.
Because we don't want to stand between you and lunch, we're just making one more plea to please make sure that all your forms have been turned in. We're going to be doing drawings for lucky prize drawings during lunch. You have to be present to win. The orange forms are your entry. Everyone that registered is able to enter, at least write your name, and lunch will be served. You can have a seat, stay seated, and eat your lunch in here. You can go upstairs and go to the exhibits. As long as you're present, you can still win. And we will start doing entries. And you can come up and talk to the panel.